Hey, this is Nate Ulrich from the Akron Beacon-Journal with Steve Doerschuk from the Canton Repository and Marla Ridenour from the Akron Beacon-Journal. We're in the hallway here at First Energy Stadium. Just down to the left in the locker room area, Kevin Stefanski was introduced a little while ago as the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. We're going to go through some of our takeaways here. Marla, why don't you kick this off for us? What really grabbed you about Kevin Stefanski today?
Well, what grabbed me was that he's comfortable enough in his own skin that he's not insisting on calling the plays. We've had everyone who's had an offensive background, Pat Shurmur, Freddie, stubbornly clung to that when, even if they realized how much it is on their plate as a first-year head coach, they still did it. And he said that was kind of in flux. It would depend on, if he has someone he can trust to do it. And to tell you the truth, I think that colors my whole opinion of him going forward, that he's not going to put his foot down and say, I have to do this, that, he's not only willing to delegate, but he's willing to trust someone, right out of the gate. I think that's huge.
There's evidence that that's just not a PR answer, because in Minnesota last year, his first full season as an offensive coordinator, they brought in Gary Kubiak. And he loved having Gary Kubiak there, former head coach, longtime play caller, and he really embraced Gary Kubiak constructing that offense with him and implementing the zone scheme that we know about, the Shanahan zone blocking and the play action. So there's evidence that he's serious when he says that. Steve, your major takeaway?
Number one, I would say that, and this might sound superficial, but I'll explain why it's not. Yesterday I was listening to Chris Spielman, the brother of Rick Spielman, who was Stefanski's general manager. I was listening to Chris, who knows Stefanski very well, say that Stefanski is going to be a meat and potatoes guy, who very all business, but not a guy who would be charismatic and win the press conference. On that level, I disagree with Chris's prediction. I thought that Stefanski probably won the press conference big time. One of the words that came up right out of Stefanski's mouth, for example, was authentic. And whereas Freddie probably was authentic and he was very spontaneous and what you saw was what you got with Freddie, I think they tried way too hard at last year's press conference. It's kind of funny, it was just a year ago that we were talking about last year's.
Yeah,
but they went out of their way to say how authentic Freddie was, and it got so strange that it wasn't authentic the way they were presenting Freddie's authenticism, or whatever the word is.
Authenticity?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Thesaurus. Okay, but anyway, I thought that Stefanski came off as very organic, very, very spontaneous, a quick twitch thinker, but precise in that quick twitch thinking. And on that level, I could see how he got along well with DePodesta for what DePodesta's role is worth. And I think we're learning more and more that Paul DePodesta's role is worth a lot. So those were some of my quick thoughts.
Yeah, and there was a couple news items here. One, Marla touched on with, play calling's up in the air on the offensive side of the ball despite an offensive-minded head coach coming in. Another is DePodesta's worth and value. He's working on an expiring contract, but he said that he's not concerned about it and he expects to be here. Right. So that was a little nugget. Another one was Jimmy Haslam says this isn't a rebuild, and Kevin Stefanski carried that message through. That was kind of the thing that stood out to me. Is he was very complimentary about Baker Mayfield, and ultimately his work with quarterbacks in the past, that's what impressed the Browns. And there's a combination of things, but that really, I think, put him over the top when it comes to like a guy, like Robert Saleh, who they liked a lot too and were really impressed with in the interview process. But he says the sky's the limit for Baker Mayfield, and he's going to have a plan to get him back on track. And he was complimentary of the core nucleus. I asked him about not only Baker, but Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. You know the names, and he's like very excited about that group. And we're used to seeing new faces come into the coaching position in the front office, and what do? They get rid of a lot of the players. They bring in their new guys. But I think with Jimmy Haslam saying this isn't a rebuild, Stefanski being excited about that young nucleus, I think we're going to see those main pieces moving forward here, and that's exciting because that's the talent that we all believed would make the Browns good last year. Now we'll see if they have the coaching. Real quick, guys, to close out, first impressions of Stefanski. I know we touched on a little bit of that, but if we could boil it down into, a quick thought. Marla, you want to hit us with yours?
Well, I guess I was sort of nonplussed yesterday, but today I feel totally different. I feel a lot better about his leadership style. Even his down-to-earth, saying that he's getting the kids a dog and they're going to Disney World. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to give up any even little personal nuggets at all. I thought he was very personable, very relatable, and I was impressed. I was much more impressed than I expected.
Yeah, I thought another cute thing was he said his kids are excited he's going to be in Madden now as a head coach. Yeah. You get to see him in the video game on the sideline. I thought he came across as advertised, really intelligent, sharp, and insightful. I mean, he wasn't like, okay, I want to run through this wall right here after watching him speak. He wasn't that kind of coach. But I thought that he won the press conference, kind of as Steve said earlier, in the way that he was insightful and thoughtful with his answers, and I think down to earth and authentic, which you guys described are other key takeaways, and I would say I was impressed with those.
My takeaway overall would be I'm got to coach myself, and I think maybe we all do, to remember that this has never worked for Jimmy. To one extent or another, we liked the previous candidates who came in, all the way back to Chud, who was hired because he brought in coordinators with gravitas, Childress, and at that time Ray Farmer was thought to be an up-and-comer. And one of the things about Stefanski, agreed all the points about he presented himself well, but he's been linked to name coordinators who would have some gravitas and kind of prop up the inexperience aspect of his candidacy. But the first impression is, I'm going to be skeptical until one of Jimmy Haslam's guys in the Haslam organization shows that it knows what the heck it's doing. But I really did like and was impressed very favorably with the way Stefanski presented himself.
I'm totally with you. I think the way to put it is Kevin Stefanski does deserve a fair chance, like from us as media and the fans out there watching. The Browns have lost the benefit of the doubt with us. You think that they would eventually get lucky and get it right? We'll see if we're here in a year or not. Thanks for watching.